And good morning, everyone. Glad to be back with you. I'm without my sling this morning. It's not working out real well, by the way. Uh, Anyways, good to be back nonetheless. I appreciate you being with me. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and this is what I call my morning musings. I'm sharing some thoughts with you on the end of the Charismata, the defeat of Satan, Satan and the victory of Christ. Fantastic topics, fantastic study. And by the way, I really appreciate all of the emails that I have gotten in response to this series. We are currently examining the purposes, the reasons why the Charismata were performed, why the gifts of the Holy Spirit were poured out in the last days. Well, the reason that this is important is because when we see that the gifts were limited in their function, limited in their purpose, or very specific in their function and design, then it would therefore follow logically that once those purposes had been satisfied, met, fulfilled, that the Charismata would end. And that's exactly and precisely what is indicated when Paul says, we know in part, but when that which is perfect is come, that which is in part shall be done away. The tongues, the prophecy, the Charismata were to bring the church to the state of that which is perfect. Well, one of the stated purposes of the Charismata was to be a sign of the impending day of the Lord. Now, this is proven in a variety of ways, but notice 1 Corinthians chapter 14, 20 and 21. There, Paul is discussing the charismatic gifts, regulating their use. The church at Corinth was abusing the charismatic gifts. For some reason or other, they esteemed the speaking in tongues to be greater than the other gifts. Paul said that wasn't true at all. Matter of fact, Paul said prophecy was the greatest gift. Well, in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, 20 and 21, Paul says, tongues are for a sign, not to the believer, but to the unbeliever. Now, this is really important. You know, most of the time today, when we speak to individuals about the Charismata and the tongues, people talk about the personal individual benefit of speaking in tongues. That's not what they were intended for. Now, did it have that, shall we say, that side effect? Well, certainly, I'm not denying that. But the point of it is, tongues were never intended primarily for the benefit or the exhortation of believers. They were a sign to unbelievers. Now, it's interesting that Paul then says, as it is written in the law. You see, the law had foretold tongues, speaking in tongues. Paul then cites directly Isaiah 28, verse 11, which is itself a direct allusion to Deuteronomy 28:46, in which the Lord said that in Israel's last days, or in Israel's history, when and if she would apostatize, the Lord would bring upon her a people speaking in languages and tongues that she did not understand, to punish her and to take her into captivity. Now, that's precisely what was going on in Isaiah chapter 28, as the Lord threatened judgment of the 10 northern tribes as a result of their sinfulness. The Lord brought the Assyrians on her, just as he then later brought on Judah and Benjamin, the Babylonians, speaking in their unknown tongue. And here in Paul's letter to the Corinthians, He is writing to the church, which, catch this now, was comprised of the righteous remnant of Israel, bringing in the pagans into the blessings and the promises of Israel. But Israel as a nation was rejecting that gospel. She was being disobedient. And judgment was coming. And as a direct sign of that impending judgment, the Lord gave the gift of tongues to the churches to be a sign to the unbelievers of that coming judgment. In other words, speaking in tongues wasn't really a very happy thing. Now, it was comfort, to be sure, for the persecuted church, knowing that the persecutors were about to be persecuted. But in reality and in fact, tongues were a last days sign to Israel of her impending judgment. Now, don't forget, in my book, Into All the World, Then Comes the End, I developed this topic. I developed this very topic extensively with full scriptural documentation. If you'll go to my website, www.eschatology.org, www.bibleprophecy.com, order the book, Into All the World, Then Comes the End, mention that you saw the offer on YouTube, and I will refund your shipping. All right? It's a great offer, so you need to take advantage of it. Thanks for joining me on this morning's Morning Musings. We'll see you on the flip side.